You're scrolling through your phone on a Sunday afternoon and you see it. Your old college roommate just closed on their third rental property. Someone from your last job is posting about their early retirement strategy. Your cousin's talking about hitting some investment milestone that sounds like a lottery win. And you look at your own life. You've got a decent job, maybe some money in the bank. You're not broke, but you're 40 or close enough that you can see it coming. And there's this question you keep avoiding. Am I actually where I'm supposed to be? Here's the uncomfortable truth. If this video makes you uneasy, it's because you've been confusing financial activity with financial progress. And deep down, you know the difference. You're contributing to your 401k, you're making more money than you did 5 years ago, you pay your bills on time. That feels like progress. It feels like you're moving forward. But activity isn't the same as results, and at 40, results are the only thing that matters. The difference between someone who ends up financially secure and someone who works until they die isn't luck. It's not starting with more money. It's not even about how much you make. It's about what you keep. And if you're honest with yourself, you haven't been keeping much. My name is Rob, and I spend way too much time thinking about money and how it actually works. If you feel like you're doing everything right but still not getting ahead, subscribe and hit the like button. It genuinely helps. Let's talk about what you should have accomplished by 40, financially and professionally. And then, let's talk about what to do if you're nowhere close. Because I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to give you the map you should have had 10 years ago.
Before we talk about where you should be, we need to talk about where you actually are. And most people can't answer that question honestly. Ask yourself right now, what's your net worth? Not your income, not your salary, not how much is in your checking account. Your net worth. Everything you own minus everything you owe. If you can't answer within $25,000, you're operating blind, and that vagueness is expensive. Here's what most people do instead. They create a mental inventory that feels true. They tell themselves a story. I've got some savings. I'm contributing to my 401k. I've got equity in my house. I'm doing okay. That story feels reassuring. It feels responsible. It lets you sleep at night. But doing okay isn't a financial position. It's a feeling you use to avoid looking at the numbers. Because when you actually look at the numbers, when you add up your retirement accounts, your emergency fund, your investments, and then subtract your credit card debt, your car loans, your student loans, the number is smaller than you thought, sometimes a lot smaller. In the realization hits, I've been measuring progress by how I feel, not by what I have. You feel like you're moving forward because your life looks better than it did at 30. You've got a nicer apartment, you drive a better car, you take better vacations, you eat at nicer restaurants. But your net worth hasn't kept pace with your lifestyle. That gap between how successful you feel and how much you've actually built, that's the problem. And at 40, that gap is starting to matter. Here's why this matters more at 40 than at 30. You're running out of time to fix it with small adjustments. At 30, you can mess around for a few more years and still recover. At 40, every year you waste is a year of compounding you'll never get back. So before you do anything else, you need to know where you actually stand. Not where you think you stand, not where you feel like you stand, where the math says you stand. Pull up your accounts, add it all up, subtract what you owe, look at the number. That number is your starting line. And wherever it is, that's fine, but you need to know it, because you can't get somewhere if you don't know where you are.
Let's talk about your income. At 40, you're probably making more money than you've ever made. Maybe you've doubled your income since your 20s. Maybe you've tripled it. You've gotten raises, promotions, better jobs. You've climbed. So where did the money go? I'll tell you where it went. It went into a bigger apartment, a nicer car, better furniture, more dinners out, subscriptions you barely use, upgrades you don't think about anymore because they're just part of your life now. You upgraded your lifestyle, not your net worth. This is the earning trap. You think because you're making more, you're building more, but income and wealth aren't the same thing. Income is what flows through your hands. Wealth is what you keep. And if you're like most people at 40, you've been operating at near zero capture rate. All that money came in and all that money went right back out. Maybe a little slower, maybe to nicer places, but it's gone. Here's the math that should make you sick.
Let's say at age 30, you were making $50,000 a year, and let's say you're now making $80,000 at 40. That's a $30,000 raise over 10 years. Not bad. But here's what should have happened. If you'd kept your 30-year-old lifestyle and invested the difference, you'd have banked $300,000 over that decade. And at 7% annual returns, that $300,000 would be worth around $350,000 to $400,000 today. What do you actually have? Probably a lot less, because instead of banking the raise, you spent it. You moved to a better neighborhood. You leased a nicer car. You started going out more. The lifestyle expanded automatically, and you convinced yourself you'd earned it. You did earn it, but you didn't keep it. And here's what nobody tells you. That $350,000 you don't have, left to grow until you're 65, becomes $1.4 million. You didn't lose the money you spent, you lost everything that money would have become. The realization you need to have is this: I've been getting raises and getting poorer at the same time, because here's the truth wealthy people understand and broke people don't. Income growth means nothing if your expenses grow at the same rate. If you make $50K and spend $48K, you're capturing $2K. If you make $100K and spend $98K, you're still capturing $2K. Your life looks better, your Instagram looks better, but your net worth? Identical. The earning trap is thinking because you make more, you're doing better. You're not. You're just funding a more expensive version of broke.
Let's talk about time, because at 40, time is the thing you're running out of. There are 4 wealth-building windows in your life, and most people don't realize they exist until they've already passed through them. Window 1, ages 25 to 35, the miracle window. This is where compounding does its best work. Every dollar you invest here multiplies 4 to 7x by retirement. This is the window where small amounts of money become large amounts of money almost automatically. If you invested $500 a month from 25 to 35 and then stopped completely, you'd have around $600,000 at 65. That's $60,000 invested, turning into $600,000. That's the miracle. Most people waste this window. They're figuring life out. They're focusing on their career. They're enjoying being young. And that's understandable, but it's also expensive. Window 2, ages 35 to 45. The leverage window. This is where you are now, or where you just entered, or where you're about to exit. Money invested here still multiplies, around 2 to 4x by retirement. That's real growth. But you need volume now. You can't put away $200 a month and expect miracles. You need to be putting away $1,000, $2,000, maybe more. This window is your last chance to build wealth through compounding. It's not as powerful as the first window, but it's still powerful enough. Window 3, ages 45 to 55, the desperation window. Money here grows maybe 1.5 to 2x. You're not building wealth anymore. You're racing against time. Everything you invest here needs to be higher amounts, more aggressive, more consistent, because time isn't on your side. This is the window where people start panicking. They realize they're behind and they start making risky bets. Crypto, individual stocks, day trading. They're trying to make up for lost time with high-risk plays, and most of them lose. Window 4, 55 plus, the preservation window. At this point, you're not building wealth. You're protecting whatever you manage to accumulate. You're shifting to safer investments. You're planning for withdrawal, not growth. If you didn't build wealth in the first 3 windows, this window can't save you. Here's the realization you need to internalize. There's a date after which I can't fix this with discipline alone. That date is different for everyone, but it exists, and for most people at 40, that date is about 5 years away. Right now, you're in the leverage window. You've missed the miracle, but you haven't entered desperation. You still have time for compounding to do meaningful work. But every month you delay, that window shrinks. Every month you don't invest aggressively, you're losing ground you can't recover. At 40, compound interest is still your friend. At 50, it's a stranger. At 55, it's gone. The math doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care that you didn't know. It doesn't care that you were focused on other things. The clock is running. And if you're 40 and you haven't started investing seriously, you're in the last 5 years where it's possible to catch up. After that, you're managing damage, not building wealth.
Let's talk about the difference between you and someone who's actually building wealth. It's not intelligence, it's not luck, it's not even income necessarily. It's mindset, specifically how they think about money on a Tuesday afternoon when nobody's watching. Here's what it looks like. You get a raise, $10,000 more per year. The middle-class 40-year-old, let's call them you're excited. You feel like you've made progress. You've been working hard and it's paying off. So you celebrate. You book a trip, you upgrade your car lease, you move to a slightly nicer place. Maybe you increase your 401k contribution by 1%. You feel responsible. 6 months later, your lifestyle has expanded to the new income. You're not saving any more than you were before the raise. The money just evaporated into a better version of your life. The wealth-building 40-year-old gets the same raise, doesn't touch their lifestyle, not because they're depriving themselves, because they made a decision years ago that income increases don't go to spending, they go to net worth. The entire $10,000 gets redirected. Brokerage account, index funds, maxing out retirement contributions. Done automatically. They don't re-decide every month. They decided once. Their life looks exactly the same as it did before the raise, but their net worth just increased by $10,000 per year, compounding forward. That's the difference. It's not that wealthy people don't want nice things. It's that they've rewired what nice things means. You feel rich when your checking account is full. They feel rich when their net worth is growing. You experience fear when you can't afford something you want. They experience fear when they're not investing enough. You ask, what's my credit limit? They ask, what's my net worth? These seem like small differences, but they compound into completely different lives. Here's the shift. Wealthy people treat money like it's finite. Broke people treat money like it's infinite. You act like there's always going to be more income, more time, more opportunities, so you spend freely because I'll make it up later. They act like every dollar is the last dollar. Every dollar gets a job. It either grows wealth or it doesn't exist. And here's the thing that's hard to accept. You can adopt this mindset today, right now. It doesn't require more income. It requires treating the income you have differently. But most people won't, because it requires something uncomfortable, admitting that the way you've been thinking about money has been wrong. And that's a hard thing to accept at 40. Let's talk about the life you've built. You've got a nice apartment, maybe $3,500 a month. You've got a car payment, $500, $600, maybe more. You've got subscriptions, gym membership, streaming services, internet, phone plan, a few random apps you forgot about. You eat out a few times a week. You order delivery when you're tired. You buy stuff on Amazon without thinking about it. Not big stuff, just stuff. This is your lifestyle, and it feels normal. It feels like what life costs. But here's what it actually is. A subscription you auto-renew forever. Every lifestyle decision you've made has created a recurring obligation. The apartment isn't a one-time decision. It's a $2,000 a month commitment. The car isn't a purchase. It's a $600 a month payment. The habits aren't choices. They're monthly expenses. And here's the part nobody warns you about. Every lifestyle decision you make at 40 becomes exponentially harder to reverse at 50. Right now, you could theoretically downsize. You could move to a cheaper place. You could sell the car and buy something used. You could cut subscriptions, eat at home more, stop buying random stuff. It would suck. It would feel like going backwards, but you could do it. At 50, your kids are in school. Your identity is tied to your neighborhood. Your friends expect a certain version of you. You've built a life that requires 6 figures to maintain, and now you're locked in. The apartment you deserved at 35 is now the prison you can't escape at 50. And the worst part, you'll keep funding it. You'll keep working. You'll keep stressing, not because you want to, but because your lifestyle demands it. Wealthy people understand this. That's why they live below their means at 40, so they have freedom at 50. You did the opposite. You lived at your means, or slightly above them, and now you're stuck. The question isn't, can I afford this lifestyle? The question is, can I afford to be trapped in this lifestyle for the next 25 years? Because that's what you're signing up for. Every dollar you commit to recurring expenses is a dollar you'll have to earn every month for decades. You're not building a life, you're building obligations. And the longer you wait to reduce those obligations, the harder it becomes to ever escape them.
Let's talk about your job. You've probably been at the same company or in the same type of role for 5, maybe 10 years. You're good at it. You know the systems, the commute is manageable, the people are fine. It's comfortable. And that comfort is costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here's what the data shows. People who change companies strategically every 3 to 5 years earn 20 to 40% more over their careers than people who stay put. Let's make that concrete. Person A stays at the same company from 30 to 50. They start at $60K, they get 3% raises annually. By 50, they're making $108K. Total lifetime earnings around $1.8 million. Person B switches companies every 4 years. They start at $60K. At 34, they switch and get a 15% bump to $75K. At 38, they switch again and get to $95K. At 42, another jump to $118K. At 46, they hit $145K. By 50, person B is making $145K. Total lifetime earnings around $2.4 million. That's a $600,000 difference for doing the same work, just at different companies. But most people don't do this because switching feels risky, it feels disloyal, it feels like starting over. So they stay, and they rationalize it. The benefits are good here. I don't want to deal with a new commute. I've built relationships. I don't want to throw that away. All of those things are true, and all of those things are expensive. At 40, you should be in your peak earning years. You should be making more than you've ever made, and you should be negotiating aggressively because you have leverage, skills, experience, a track record. But most people at 40 are in the same salary band they were at 35. They're getting 2 to 3% annual raises that barely beat inflation. They're coasting, and coasting is expensive. Here's the shift you need to make. Are you staying because you're valued or because you're comfortable? Because if the answer is comfort, you're paying for it, and the price is your future. You don't have to quit tomorrow, but you should be actively looking at what you're worth in the market. You should be interviewing, you should be negotiating, because every year you stay in a role that underpays you is a year of income you'll never recover. And at 40, you don't have years to waste.
Okay, let's say you're behind. You're 40, and your net worth is nowhere near where it should be. Maybe you've got 30K saved, maybe 50K, maybe less. You're panicking. You're wondering if it's too late. It's not too late, but it's also not easy. And if you want to catch up, you need to accept something uncomfortable. Catching up means living like you're 30 while earning like you're 40. Here's the plan. No fluff, no hype, just what actually works. Step 1. Freeze your lifestyle immediately. Not reduce it, freeze it. Your rent, your car payment, your daily spending, it stays exactly where it is for the next 5 years minimum. You don't upgrade, you don't expand, you don't celebrate raises with lifestyle improvements. Every raise, every bonus, every windfall goes to investments. Not some of it, all of it. This is hard because your friends are upgrading, your coworkers are buying houses, social media is full of people living better lives. You're going to feel like you're falling behind socially while you're catching up financially. That discomfort is the price. Step 2. Solve for capture rate, not savings rate. Your goal isn't to save 15% of your income. That's for people who started at 25. Your goal is to capture 40 to 50% of every new dollar that enters your life. If you get a $10K raise, you capture $5K per year. If you get a $5K bonus, you capture $2,500. This is non-negotiable. The money you're already living on, that's fine. You've proven you can live on it. But new money doesn't touch your lifestyle. Step 3. Attack the big 3: housing, transportation, and income. Forget about cutting lattes. That's noise. The things that actually move the needle are the 3 biggest line items in your budget. Housing. Can you get a roommate? Can you downsize? Can you move to a cheaper area? These aren't fun conversations, but a $500 a month reduction in rent is $6,000 a year. Invested over 25 years, that's $380,000. Transportation. Can you sell your car and buy something used? Can you pay cash? Can you drive it for 10 years? A $500 car payment eliminated is $6,000 a year. That's another $380,000 at retirement. Income. Can you switch companies? Can you negotiate? Can you add a side income stream? An extra $10K per year captured and invested is $630,000 by retirement. These 3 decisions will change your trajectory more than 1,000 small optimizations. Step 4. Automate everything before willpower fails. The day you get paid, money moves automatically. 401k contribution, max it if possible, brokerage account transfer, debt paydown. What's left is what you live on. You cannot rely on discipline. Discipline fails. Systems don't. Step 5. Accept that you're on a different timeline now. The standard advice is save 15% for retirement. That's for people who started at 25. You didn't, so you need 30 to 40% if you want to retire on schedule. If that feels impossible, then extend your timeline. Retirement at 67 or 70 isn't failure, it's math. Or accept a smaller retirement, $600K instead of $1.5 million, modest living instead of luxury. The point is, you have to pick a goal that matches your starting point, and at 40, starting behind, your goal needs to be realistic. Step 6. Understand what you're actually buying. This isn't about deprivation, it's about what you're trading. Every $100 per month you invest at 40 becomes $50,000 to $60,000 at 65. So when you're deciding whether to spend $250 a month on something, a nicer car, a subscription, whatever, you're not deciding about $250. You're deciding about $125,000. Once you see money this way, you can't unsee it. That's the plan. It's not sexy, it's not fast, but it works. The question is, are you willing to do it?
Here's the last thing I want to talk about. This isn't really about money, it's about who you're becoming. The version of you that builds wealth is a different person than the version of you that exists today. That person doesn't care what anyone thinks about their 10-year-old car. Feels rich when their net worth increases, not when their checking account is full. Treats investment accounts like they're untouchable because they are. Makes decisions based on 10-year outcomes, not 10-minute feelings. Understands that no today is yes to everything later. You don't become that person overnight. You become that person by making uncomfortable choices repeatedly until they stop being uncomfortable, until saying no to upgrades feels normal, until driving an old car feels like a flex, not an embarrassment, until watching your net worth grow feels better than buying something new. That's the transformation. And here's what nobody tells you. Once you become that person, you can't go back. You can't unsee what you've learned. You can't unknow what money is actually worth. You stop comparing yourself to people on Instagram and start comparing yourself to who you were last year. You stop feeling poor because your lifestyle is modest and start feeling rich because your net worth is growing. The goal isn't to retire rich. The goal is to become the type of person who can't stay broke. And once you're that person, the money is just evidence. So, here's my question for you. What financial decision from your past would you change if you could go back? Drop it in the comments, because the more honest we are about past mistakes, the better we get at avoiding future ones. If this video gave you the kick in the pants you needed, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more content like this, because here's the truth. Time is passing either way. 5 years from now, you'll either be glad you started or wondering why you didn't.